KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi has made explosive claims that a powerful criminal syndicate involving politicians, police officers, prosecutors, judges and business people is working to derail investigations into political killings. Speaking at a media briefing last Sunday, Mkhwanazi accused Police Minister Senzo Mchunu and a top deputy of disbanding a specialized task team. He went to further suggest that even some elements of the judiciary are allegedly protecting criminals. To unpack this now and these developments and their implications, we're joined by criminologist Professor Dumisani Mabunda and Professor Tseli Phooko from the Faculty of Law at the University of Fort Hare. Thank you so much for joining me on the program today, Professor. Perhaps Phooko, let's start with you. So was this public announcement of interference or alleged interference thereof with investigations within the ambit of the law?
Thank you, sir, for inviting us to the show. Good morning to your viewers. Well, it is a bit unprecedented because you would expect that there are internal mechanisms to address any issues that impact on the operation of the department, in this instance, SABC. But legally, there is nothing untoward about having made that press statement. But in a general state, one would have expected that the matter would be raised internally and up until the office of the president. Thank you.
And Prof. Mabunda, let's also rope you in. I mean, being a police officer is already difficult as it is. We've heard how police officers are complaining about being stretched for resources. And now these allegations would add a spanner in the works where you have these potential rotten apples operating within. And given the serious nature of these allegations by Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, particularly claims involving politicians, senior police officials, and even members of the judiciary, how unprecedented is this level of accusation within the policing environment, and what does it say about internal trust within SABC itself?
Yeah, greetings to my fellow panelists and to the audience. I think it is a good thing that this matter was raised by a high-ranking officer. Otherwise, it would have been swept under the carpet. I suppose that the national dialogue has begun in earnest. This matter has to be investigated. As it stands now, it remains allegations. And these allegations have to be taken seriously because it affects the national security of the country. So I hope that correct structures will be established to be able to investigate all the allegations, and if proven correct, obviously the right steps will be taken by the head of state. We are all anticipating what the president of the country will be communicating to the country later today.
And Prof. Phooko, we've seen how many South Africans share this sentiment, is that they are very tired of corruption in the country, and that is the sense that has gone through for the past week that we've seen. Can the public demand answers from the minister or the president, and if so, on what basis?
Indeed, policy, it's been a very interesting sort of the past week. You know, it's been a week of press conferences from one department to another or one official to another, which to a certain extent, you know, it causes confusion amongst the members of the public. But to answer your question, the answer is yes. Remember that the public is the one that elects the government of the day. Therefore, the public has a right to demand answers from the government or the political representatives to provide clarity, on what is really happening. You have this commissioner saying this, you have the minister saying this. A country surely cannot be governed by press, rather different press views. And this legal duty, it arises from the Constitution. If you look at the preamble, it clearly says that the government is based on the will of the people. Therefore, the people have the right to demand answers. That's where it arises from.
And to bring it back into the fold, Prof. Mabunda, from a policing perspective, was it appropriate or even strategic for the police commissioner, the KZN police commissioner, to make those allegations public, especially if some of those investigations were still underway? And what risk does this pose for the integrity of the ongoing cases and the safety of the officers involved?
A good question. Obviously, since this matter was raised by a general, it appears that various steps might have taken place where the commissioner was raising his frustration on the media to say, I've tried everything internally, but this time I need the country to know that I have done everything, but I couldn't get the right answer. So he wanted the head of the state to intervene, which we are hoping that he will intervene in a right way. But I think there are protocols. I think the general, as I know him personally, being a disciplined member of the SAPS, he has done everything according to the rules and regulations. Otherwise, he would have known that if those things have not been followed to the letter, there will be consequences. So my view is that he has done everything, and this was the last platform so that the nation can see that there is turbulence within the SAPS. And as we know, if there's a turbulence, the pilot has to assure all of us as passengers to say this plane is not going to crash, just the turbulence. So hoping that the president will receive the reports from all areas and be able to apply his mind.
And Prof. Phooko, I know Prof. Mabunda makes a valid point around the potential consequence that we might be seeing here. And that has also been a term that we've been using throughout the course of the morning, trying to dissect as well as make sense of what the president is likely to say this evening when we look at those potential scenarios that are likely to play out. Say, for instance, we've seen in other countries how mostly whistleblowers or people who said to so-called jump the gun are usually left out to dry. Say for an instance, maybe the president decides to place the general now on suspension. Would this hold legally on the basis that he perhaps, I don't know, flouted procedure?
Well, at this stage, obviously, policy, we are working on postulations, what might happen. Yes, it might, because remember, if you are in charge and you are the one who's being investigated, if there are likelihoods that you are more likely, to interfere with the investigation process, then in that instance, it is within the law to be put, on precautionary leave or whatever form of leave that is, so that the investigation might unfold swiftly without any interference. So the president might do that. That is one angle to approach it. And obviously there are other angles, not to jump, your questions, but I will engage on those should you want me to.
For sure, go ahead and do that.
Yes. The second one, obviously, the Minister of Police is also involved. Therefore, there are chances that he as well might be placed on a special leave to allow the investigation to go ahead. The third option that we have is to investigate the extent of the damage. Obviously, that will be through a commission of inquiry. It would be very interesting then here in policy to see if the president decides to go the route of a commission of inquiry. At what stage will this particular commission of inquiry investigate, the allegations that have been made? Will it start from this year? How backward does this problem within SABS dates? Is it a matter of a decade or two? So those will be the interesting things to know, especially the terms of reference will tell us all these things, the framework, the period, and so on. But the chances are that, yes, we might see some people being placed on leave if obviously there's enough, evidence to do so. Thank you.
And Prof. Mabunda, the disbanding of the political killings task team has also raised eyebrows. In your views, what is the operational impact when such specialized units are shut down abruptly? And what message does this send to both investigators and the criminal networks that they are targeting?
Yeah, it's a good question. But last week or this week, I heard the commissioner saying that we didn't sign a letter for the disbandment of that special task team. So at this stage, we are hearing defenses from various angles, which requires an investigation, because all the people that have been mentioned in that press conference are defending themselves. So we don't know what the truth is. As I say, I hear the commissioner says there is no letter that is signed that the special task team should be disbanded. So what is concerning is that the inquiry that may be established after today's communication by the president may take longer. And as South Africans, we quickly forget. Another scandal will emerge and then we forget about this. If there's a prolonged investigation on this, it means that the people that are occupying those positions will not be trusted by the society because there are clouds hanging over their heads. The sooner these clouds are cleared, the better. So as my co-panelists have indicated, the ideal situation would be to allow implicated people to step aside, as in politics they say, so that the investigation can continue proper. The last question that I want to ask is, who is the appropriate structure to investigate such a matter? If wishes were horses, I would beg that the independent inquiry board, maybe the FBI, be requested to investigate this kind of issue, because it places the security of this country at risk. So, but that is up to the authorities, which body will be tasked to investigate all these allegations. Because in the past, we have seen, even in the Zondo Commission, there were recommendations that were made that this must be investigated, but we have not had convictions in those. So simply some people are likely to be placed in other roles while this investigation is taking place. But we are all waiting for the president. We can be able to comment better after the president has spoken this evening.
And I want to stay on that point that you just made now, Prof. Mabunda, where you say, if wishes were horses. Let's talk about this board that you're talking about. If it were to happen, would it be sustainable, though, having listened to how you've just described it and how it would, work operationally? Would it be sustainable?
I'm not so sure, but without undermining the institutions that we're having in this country, but looking at the investigations that have taken place in the past, some of us were left with so much questions than answers. And it also involves money, because these inquiries involves a lot of money. And then after that, you will hear someone saying that those were recommendations. So recommendations are not going to be implemented because they are not law. So why waste money and effort in institution and inquiry which will not be implemented? So I can say organized crime in South Africa is a serious issue for all of us. We need to find ethical leadership in positions of authority so that the community is assured that their safety is guaranteed.
And Prof. Phooko, there's now a need, and that need is to restore the public confidence in SAPS, as well as its processes, as well as the justice system as its whole and its entirety, and all those that are also involved. How would we achieve this goal?
Well, policy, the first thing that one would, anticipate, if you have evidence, the first step that you take, you simply open a case within the very same, unit, which is SAPS, that is being accused of, many issues. So one would have expected that maybe, the general would have opened a case. The second one, again, if you are saying, the judiciary to a certain extent is captured, one would think that you are talking of something that you are in possession of, and therefore you would explore the available channels through the judicial, conduct tribunal, and say, here is the matter, here is the evidence, and you lay a particular charge against those who are concerned. Maybe this will still materialize. We don't know. We are waiting with the hope that there will be something that will come up. But now, to restore the public trust, there needs to be action. Remember that SAPS is at the doorstep. They are tasked with the primary responsibility to ensure that the republic and the citizens are safe. So we cannot afford to have a situation wherein now these infighting end up causing confusion and uncertainty within people. Hopefully, whatever that the president will announce will bring action and, to a certain extent, restore public confidence within our SAPS.
And Prof. Mabunda, before I also let you go there, let's hear from you. What would your classic signs or pointers to say that the president is serious about cracking down on corruption be tonight? Would it be just tough talk for you? Would it be action for you? What would it be?
I think the president is passionate about rooting out corruption in South Africa. And I believe that he is serious about destroying corruption, because they understand that it robs the vulnerable of opportunities for a better life. I hope that the president will take a step that will assure the citizens of this country that corruption will not be tolerated. But at the same time, this may be tough for the president, because he has to balance things. He have to tread carefully. Suspensions and all those things, I doubt if they will take place, because they can cause more damage than good. But I do not want to preempt the message of the president. We will be all in a better position to see what direction the country is taking after the speech by the president this evening.
All Right, gentlemen, I must thank you so much for your time and insights right here on the agenda this hour. That was criminologist Professor Dumisani Mabunda and Professor Tseli Phooko from the Faculty of Law at the University of Fort Hare, helping us just to make sense of the serious allegations made by Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi and what they could mean for the justice system in the country and the rule of law and public trust in our institutions.